In country music, some voices are destined to be legends, their names written into the history books. But other voices, just as gifted, are meant to harmonize to support and lift up the lead. Their impact felt more than it's seen. For decades, Linda Davis had one of those voices. She was a singer's singer, an artist of incredible talent whose skill was an open secret in Nashville. But to the world, she was often defined by one thing: her Grammy-winning duet with the Queen of Country, herself, Reba McEntire. But a harmony isn't just half a voice. It's the force that completes a song, giving it depth and soul. And to be that force, standing right next to a superstar like Reba, takes a quiet strength and a story far more complex than anyone ever knew. For years, she smiled from the background, the graceful supporting player who let the music do the talking. But now, at 61, Linda Davis is finally ready to share her story, a story of friendship, ambition, sacrifice, and the long road to finding her own voice in a world that almost overlooked it. For decades, she was the voice harmonizing with a legend, the smiling face just outside the spotlight. The world knew Linda Davis as Reba McEntire's duet partner. But what they didn't know was the story she kept to herself, the private moments that defined their friendship and the difficult truths she's only now ready to share. This isn't just the story of a famous song. It's the story of what it costs to stand next to greatness, the sacrifices made when the stage lights go down, and the quiet triumph of a woman who found her own voice long after the world thought they'd already heard it, long before the arenas and the awards. There was just a girl from Dodson, Texas, with a voice that felt like home. Linda K. Davis, born in 1962, grew up where music was simply a way of life. Her family was musical, and by the age of 6, Linda was already performing on a local radio show, an early sign of the natural connection she had with an audience. While other kids had hobbies, Linda had a passion. She taught herself piano, picking out the gospel tunes that filled her home. Her parents saw her talent and drove her to perform at the legendary Louisiana Hayride, a stepping stone to the Grand Ole Opry. Even as a teen, Linda's voice had a rare quality. It didn't just hit the notes. It delivered emotion with a purity you couldn't ignore. It was never flashy. It was just real, honest. That honesty became her calling card. At just 20, with no real industry connections, she packed her bags and moved to Nashville. It was a tough town, a place where amazing talent could easily get lost. Linda's early years were a grind. She sang in smoky nightclubs and quiet hotel bars, polishing her craft in front of crowds that were often half asleep. She sang demos for songwriters for $45 a session and recorded jingles for Kentucky Fried Chicken and Dr. Pepper. Her voice becoming a familiar, if anonymous, sound. It was often thankless work. She navigated the industry with a quiet persistence, learning who was serious and who was just wasting her time. Through it all, the people who mattered, the songwriters, the session musicians, the producers, started to notice. They heard how she could effortlessly convey joy or heartbreak. They called her a song stylist, someone who could truly inhabit a lyric. This reputation led to a few early record deals, but a major hit never materialized. She was a respected vocalist, but not yet a star. She opened for giants like George Strait and Kenny Rogers, experiences that were both thrilling and a constant reminder of where she stood. She'd wait backstage, her heart pounding, for a brief 15 minutes on stage, calling it a fleeting moment in heaven before she had to return to the wings. For 15 years, she was the reliable, talented backup singer, always professional, her voice a crucial but uncredited ingredient in other people's success. She was chasing a seat at the table, a chance not just to sing, but to finally be heard. And then, a call came that would change everything. It wasn't a headlining tour. It was an invitation to sing harmony for Reba McEntire. In the early 1990s, Reba McEntire wasn't just a star, she was an institution. But behind all the success, she was also navigating profound grief. In March 1991, a plane crash had tragically killed 8 members of her band. In the aftermath, Reba was rebuilding. She didn't just need talented musicians. She needed steady, reliable people who could handle the emotional weight of the tour. Was into this carefully guarded world that Linda Davis was invited. The first meeting wasn't some dramatic audition. It was a quiet moment in a rehearsal room. Reba heard Linda sing and instantly recognized the rare blend of polish and soul in her voice. The decision was simple. Linda joined the tour as a harmony singer, a pillar of support. Her job was to be the quiet strength, the voice that blended in seamlessly. Professionally, the chemistry was immediate. On stage, their voices intertwined perfectly. Linda's warm, aching tone was the ideal complement to Reba's fiery, powerhouse delivery. Their harmonies felt lived in, not manufactured. For Reba, Linda's voice was a source of comfort and trust. And for Linda, it was the opportunity of a lifetime or chance to learn from the best on the biggest stages in country music. Offstage, their relationship was professional and respectful. Linda has always credited Reba as a mentor who taught her how to handle fame and connect with a massive fanbase. Reba's belief in Linda's talent opened doors that had previously been shut. but being in a superstar's inner circle comes with unwritten rules. Fame has its own gravity, and everyone else is in its orbit. Linda was a valued member of the team, but there was an unspoken hierarchy. In photos, Reba was always the focus. In interviews, Reba's name was always first. Compliments to Linda often came with a catch. "You're so lucky to sing with her." It was never the other way around. This was just the reality of the machine. It wasn't that Reba was unkind, it's just how the industry worked. The media and the fans were focused on the star. The harmony singer, no matter how talented, was part of the background. Linda didn't want to be Reba, but she did want to be seen for her own contributions, not just for how well she blended in. As the tours continued, she started to feel it more the way conversations would stop when Reba entered a room, or how her own solo ambitions were often gently redirected. She was standing closer to the sun than ever before, but she was living completely in its shadow. It was a beautiful, complicated, and sometimes painful place to be, and it was setting the stage for the biggest moment of her career. The song was a stick of dynamite. Written back in 1982, "Does He Love You" was pure melodrama, raw, emotional showdown between a wife and a mistress. For a decade, it had been passed around Nashville, but it never found the right home. When the demo finally landed on Reba McEntire's desk, she knew it was a hit. It was the perfect catfight song, tailor-made for her. But Reba knew it needed a specific chemistry. It needed two distinct voices, one for the betrayed wife and another for the desperate lover. Her producer was skeptical, telling her nobody wanted to hear two women fighting over a man. But Reba trusted her gut and pushed forward. The big question was, who would sing it with her? The label, MCA Records, wanted another star. They pushed for Winona Judd or Trisha Yearwood. It made business sense. A duet between two superstars would be a guaranteed smash. But Reba had a different idea. She didn't want a big name, she wanted the right voice. She wanted Linda Davis. It was a risky move. Linda was in Reba's road band and didn't have a solo record deal at the time. But Reba's belief in her was absolute. She'd heard that soul in Linda's voice every night on tour and knew she was the only one who could bring the part to life. She fought for Linda, putting her own considerable clout on the line to make sure her backup singer got the shot. The recording session was electric. Linda initially thought she was just singing a demo track for a bigger star to learn from later. But in the studio, something magical happened. As Reba sang with righteous anger, Linda responded with a voice full of aching hope. It wasn't just two singers reading lyrics. It was two actresses living their roles. Reba later called it a double deluxe. By the end, everyone knew they'd captured something special. Released in August 1993, "Does He Love You" didn't just climb the charts, it exploded. It shot to #1 on the Billboard Hot Country Songs chart. The music video, directed by John Small, was a mini-movie that amplified the drama, famously ending with Reba watching a boat carrying Linda and their shared lover blow up. It was so popular that it even included a funny behind-the-scenes bit at the end, to show it was all in good fun. The song's success peaked with an iconic performance at the 1993 CMA Awards. On the Grand Ole Opry House stage, Reba and Linda recreated their dramatic showdown live, bringing the house down and cementing the song in country music history. While the performance was in 1993, the song went on to win the CMA for Vocal Event of the Year in 1994. For Linda Davis, this was more than a hit song. It was validation. After years in the background, she was finally front and center, sharing the spotlight with the very woman who put her there. The song had changed her life, but the aftershocks were just beginning. Winning a Grammy is every musician's dream. In 1994, that dream came true for Linda Davis when "Does He Love You" won for Best Country Vocal Collaboration. The duet had catapulted her from a respected session singer to a Grammy-winning artist. It was the kind of breakthrough that should have launched a massive solo career. The success led to a new record deal with Arista Nashville and gave her the platform she'd been working toward for 15 years. But the shadow of a hit that big is long. While the duet gave Linda a name, that name was now permanently tied to Reba McEntire. She'd found success, but it wasn't entirely her own. This created a huge challenge as she tried to build her own career. Her new label, wanting to cash in, pushed her to record music that sounded like what she'd done with Reba. Safe sells, they told her, but Linda didn't want to be safe. She wanted to be herself. She had her own stories to tell, but her voice was now muffled by the echo of the duet. She wasn't just Linda Davis anymore. She was Linda Davis, the one who sang with Reba. When she released her own solo music, it struggled to gain traction on the radio. The pressure to repeat the success of "Does He Love You" was a constant, quiet burden. Her professional relationship with Reba also began to shift. They were still friends, but the dynamic had changed. As Linda focused on her own career, a natural distance grew. It wasn't a deliberate exclusion, just the reality of two artists on separate paths. Reba had an empire to run, and Linda, once a key part of it, found herself on the outside looking in. This was a time of deep internal conflict for Linda. She was incredibly grateful for the doors Reba had opened. But she also felt the sting of being seen as the supporting act. The price of that one moment in the spotlight was the quiet dimming of her own. She had to reconcile the pride of her shared success with the frustration of her solo struggles. It's the classic dilemma. How do you find your own melody when the world only knows you for your harmony? She was never bitter, just determined. But the experience taught her a hard lesson about fame. Being close to it doesn't mean you get to shine. Sometimes, it means you have to learn to live in the shadows. She realized that to move forward, she had to make a choice: stay in Reba's comfortable orbit or break away, and navigate the lonelier path of her own artistic journey. The silence that followed her big hit wasn't failure. It was the sound of an artist deciding what her own voice should sound like when she was all alone. The years after Does He Love You became a journey of rediscovery for Linda Davis. The mainstream country music machine had moved on, and the pressure to conform had left her feeling like she'd lost a piece of herself. There was no big fallout with Reba, just the quiet end of a chapter. So Linda stepped back from chasing radio hits. She returned to where her music could breathe, in churches, small-town theaters, and intimate venues where people came for the story, not the spectacle. Her songs became more personal, reflecting on faith, motherhood, and resilience. This wasn't the kind of material that topped charts, but for the listeners who found her, it was real. She was no longer singing to be discovered. She was singing because she knew who she was. This period also saw her take on a deeply fulfilling new role: mentor, drawing on her decades of experience. She founded a coaching business called Stage Performance 101, advising young artists on the lessons no one had ever taught her. Having stood beside a giant, she became a source of quiet wisdom for a new generation. But the most beautiful chapter of Linda's story came through her own family. Her husband, Lang Scott, had been her rock, even playing in Reba's band alongside her. Together, they passed their love of music on to their daughters, Riley and Hillary. Then, in a stunning full-circle moment, her daughter Hillary Scott became a superstar as the co-lead singer of Lady A. Suddenly, Linda was back on the world's biggest stages, not as a backup singer, but as a proud mother standing beside her daughter. This harmony was different. It was a partnership of equals, rooted in love and respect. Watching Hillary navigate the same pressures she once faced, armed with a confidence Linda helped build, was the ultimate validation. In 2016, this family bond was captured on the album Hillary Scott and the Scott Family, Love Remains. The project, featuring Linda Lang, Hillary, and their younger daughter Riley, was a huge success, winning 2 Grammy Awards. For Linda, winning those Grammys with her family felt different. It wasn't about industry approval, it was about legacy. It was the culmination of a life in music. As she put it, it was even better than her own success, because she was watching her child live her dream. The stories behind the music are often just as powerful as the songs themselves. If you believe every voice deserves to be heard and want more stories about country music's legends and unsung heroes, subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to click the notification bell so you never miss a video that pulls back the curtain on these incredible untold stories. At 61, Linda Davis is a figure of quiet triumph and enduring grace. Her career was never a straight line. It was a winding road of persistence and integrity. She may not have achieved the same level of fame as her celebrated duet partner, but she earned something more lasting: the deep respect of her peers and a legacy built on authenticity. But her story is a powerful reminder that success isn't always measured by chart positions. It's measured in resilience and in the ability to hold on to your own identity when the world tries to define you as something else. She was the harmony singer who helped create a timeless hit. She was the mentor who guided a new generation, and she is the matriarch of a musical family. Her voice, now part of a legacy carried on by her own daughter. For years, the world heard her voice blending perfectly with Reba's, but the real story is about the years she spent learning to sing her own song on her own terms. Linda Davis was never invisible. She is an artist, a mother, and a survivor of voice that was always, unequivocally, enough.